All right, welcome. We are here at the live tax and asset protection event put on by Anderson Advisors. My name's Amanda Winalda. I'm an executive attorney here, and I'm joined on day one, our Infinity Investing Day, with Ryan Gibson. Ryan, how are you?
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Doing great.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about you and your company?
Yeah, so Spartan Investment Group, we focus on self-storage. So we buy, operate, and sell self-storage facilities, and we allow passive investors to invest alongside of us and benefit from the cash flow and upside from the self-storage.
And how did you get into self-storage specifically, as opposed to other types of real estate investing?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we started with a key decision-making criteria of we wanted something that was easy to own, easy to maintain, and easy to evict. And so that quickly eliminated things like multifamily and strip malls or things like that. So we wanted something that met that criteria, and storage fizzled to the top. The other thing that we really liked is that for the last 40 years, it's been a consistent performer. And generally, it's been recession resistant.
That's interesting because I feel like as a real estate investor myself that I've only just started hearing about self-storage as becoming really popular in the last 4 or 5 years. Why is that?
You know, self-storage has been a very fragmented industry, and there's been a lot of mom and pops and a lot of consolidation, but it's just now becoming kind of part of the main food groups of real estate. So now, like, self-storage will show up on, REITs are buying it, institutions, sovereign wealth funds, pension funds, and endowments are investing in this asset class. So it's becoming more widespread. The other reason is more and more Americans are using self-storage, more than ever before, actually. About 11% penetration in the households use self-storage. And so you're seeing more people use it, and you're seeing large institutional smarter money chase it.
Is that because we just have too much stuff as Americans?
Yeah, that could be it. But let me ask you this. Have you ever used a self-storage?
Yeah, we have one now. It's very expensive, I'll be honest.
Nice. Well, hopefully they haven't raised the rent too much on you, but why did you use it?
So we had a unit back in California. My husband had a previous marriage, so he had a bunch of other stuff. And then his parents passed away, and they had given us a bunch of more stuff. All the things that his mom memorabilia had in her garage was suddenly now supposed to take up space in our garage. We had that one in California, and then we moved to Vegas, and sort of felt it was silly to have a storage unit in California and then one in Vegas, so we moved all of our stuff out here into Vegas. We had a bigger house, so we put a bunch of furniture in it.
Yeah, so
pretty normal, right?
Pretty normal, and I didn't hear about too much stuff. What I heard was the typical reasons people use self-storage, and that's life events.
Yeah.
So, and I like to narrow that down into the 4 Ds. Death, which you had.
Yep.
Apologies for that. Sorry to hear that. Divorce. Downsizing, kind of, I guess, and then displacement. So you had that move. So those are the 4 reasons that most people use self-storage for personal purposes. That's 70% of our book of business. The other 30% are going to be business use.
Okay.
So Amazon, Etsy, folks that are building a business that way, sheet metal contractors, newspaper distribution companies, food distributors, manufacturing, whatever it might be, they might use the self-storage for personal business use as well.
I hadn't really thought about that.
Yeah,
you just think of it as an individual thing.
Yeah, like we built a property in just south of Seattle, and the first 4 or 5 units that leased was a furniture staging company. So, furniture staging company, a lot of houses being bought and sold in that market, and they used the outdoor exterior unit so they could swap out furniture as houses sold, and they had to reconfigure their staging.
That's funny because a lot of the furniture that we have in storage was what my aunt used to stage a house.
Oh, nice.
And then she gave to us. And
You're
then
checking
now
all the boxes.
It just doesn't fit. I'm like, why do I not understand this? So what specifically can Spartan do for Infinity investors?
Yeah, so I would say, number one, we could help educate you on self-storage. So I know that we put together a class on self-storage, and we'll have that rolling out. The other thing is, if you want to have a passive investment into if you want to harness the power of self-storage, you can invest in our projects. And by investing in our projects, you'll benefit from the cash flow and the upside of the opportunity. So, and what's great is, I always like to say you're passively investing, but when you put your money into a project, you're really going to pay attention to how it's doing, and you kind of get a front row seat to the show on how we operate, how we determine a market, how we look for properties. So it's a great way to do that. The other benefit too is the tax benefits. You get depreciation kind of offset some of your passive income.
We love those tax benefits around here.
Oh, totally, totally. Yeah, so it's a great opportunity to really be passive in an investment and kind of learn along the way.
I know you touched on this a little bit, but what makes self-storage like kind of the best choice now?
Yeah, I would say what stands out is its consistent performance. You know, you can look over the last 40 years, and when you see how it's performed among all other asset class types, it's usually a top performer, or at least in the top 5. You know, it might have its seasonality, or it might be down or up, or whatever it might be, but for the most part, it's been consistent. The other thing is, like I mentioned before, it's based on life events. So when you think about death, displacement, downsizing, displacement, those are never going to go away.
Yeah.
Americans are always going to have these life events that produce self-storage uses, and then business uses as well. So I would say it's a pretty consistent, sticky business that makes it a worthwhile investment.
Yeah, that's what they say. The only 2 things you can count on, death and taxes, right?
Death and your self-storage rents going up.
That's true. I've experienced that. So for people looking to invest, is there a minimum? Do you have smaller projects, bigger projects for people at different levels?
You know, anything you're trying to accomplish, whether it be, you know, I want the best possible return, even if it means the most risk. We have a growth fund that does ground-up developments. The minimums are $50K in all of our investments. If you want something with more cash flow and maybe some better risk-adjusted returns, we have the income fund. And if you're like, I don't really want to be in a fund, we do individual deal syndications as well, so you know exactly what you're investing in. So.
For people who like a little more control, right?
Yeah. I mean, some people like to really understand and follow along with the project. And some people prefer, you know, better diversification across the funds. So we really have a lot of different options.
Well, it sounds great to me. How do people get in touch with you, get involved with you? Where did they do next?
Yeah, you can email me, Ryan, at spartan-investors.com, or you can go to our website, spartan-investors.com, and you can fill out an intake form.
Nice.
So, yeah.
And if you want to meet Ryan in person, we have a ton of these tax and asset protection events coming up throughout the next year. So go head to our website and sign up. Ryan, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.